Welcome back to another episode of Briggs and Co., where we are leaving average for Joe. This week, I am so excited to invite on Morgan Tanner, one of Canada's leading talent agents. Came on and spoke to me about his childhood as a ballet dancer, his experience in live theater and TV film, on cruise ships, and then eventually his outstanding roles in leadership within the industry, including working on the creative team for the Vancouver Olympics opening ceremony. What the heck? Other topics include experiencing leaving home at 10 to attend the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, navigating bullying as a dancer, appearing on shows like Yellow Jackets, Magicians, Disney Descendants, and then pioneering a whole new sort of category role between departments on and off set. His career and experience blew me away, and I know it'll do the same to you. There are so many pockets of advice and inspiration within this episode that you will all find so interesting. So, Morgan, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Listeners, enjoy.
I'm Morgan Tanner. I guess my career started as a dancer, a classically trained dancer back in the day. And through that, kind of found myself struggling to choose either the commercial side or the concert side. And sort of once I made that choice, got into film and TV, where I was a dancer, then choreographer for film and TV. And through that, sort of broke onto working a lot on the production side, not only in film and TV, but for Olympic ceremonies and larger scale events. And then through that, transitioned into being an agent. And now I'm a full-time agent for the film and TV industry in Vancouver.
So, Kate, where did you first start training? I did obviously brush up on a little bit of your background, but where did you grow up? What was it competition studio, or was it very much like, uh, what am I looking for? A different type of program, like
Yeah,
the,
like an intensive training program.
yeah,
So I grew up in White Rock. I had like just a super normal upbringing in like a smaller suburb. And when I was really, really young, my parents, if I was ever crying or upset, my parents would turn on music and I would instantly stop crying. And as I got older, then like the bops would stop. And then, yeah, and then it grew into like just dancing around the house, or like if there was music playing, this guy was dancing. And I guess randomly my parents decided to put me in dance and I hated it.
you're like, this is too strict. I need freedom.
I wasn't sure, like, I'm pretty sure it was like one of those kids like running around the studio with like hoops and tunnels. And I was just like, no.
Yeah. When
So,
does dancing start? Yeah.
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 So, and then a couple of years later, I just asked to go back to the studio. And my parents were like, okay, if you're asking, you're going. And my parents kind of had me involved in like soccer and like other, like they were just like, try everything and figure out what you like. And I guess at the point when I asked to go back to the dance studio, my parents were like, we know nothing about dance, but go ahead. And I went, I did my first year. I was in like an all boys street dance. And at the end of the year, I like went to thank my teacher and she was like, how did you like it? Blah, blah. And I was like, it's not hard enough.
Stop it.
Yeah. And she was like, okay, well, she's like, if you want it to be harder, you're going to have to dance with like girls and like, and I was like, yeah,
Right.
sure, cool, whatever. And so there was a small group of us that ended up getting put into this class with girls. And it was like girls that I went to elementary school with. So,
Because, like, for people that might not know, the White Rock, would you say, is a tighter knit community, or has it like
It's
grown in a way that I don't know
it's
about?
grown. Like, so White Rock when I was growing up was like very much like a beach community. And like super tight. Like there was like a few elementary schools, a few high schools. Like it's pretty. I mean, it was not rural, but
Right, 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 right.
it's like a small knit community.
Yeah. And so then did you know, and it's hard to say like looking back what you were feeling if you ever thought of anything deeper than just like, oh, it's Monday night and that's dance class time. But did you have a feeling that at least you can remember that you were like, oh, I think I just found something that I'm really in love with?
Not at that time. It
No.
was kind of like it was fun. I saw my friends from school. We all went to the dance studio and did it. I at that age, like I was so young, I don't think at that point I knew that that was going to be the trajectory that I would end up being on for so long. Um,
You're like, shoot.
yeah, I'm like, back in those late 80s.
Oh no. Oh gosh.
So,
Um okay, so then did you feel yourself building a community? Because I honestly I think that the other core element of why dance can be such a like second family feeling is because for some it does become you spend more time there at the studio with your friends, with your teachers than you end up doing with your siblings or parents or back home. Like so
yeah,
did you find yourself at the studio a lot?
I was at the studio a lot. And when I was 10, my teacher made me audition for the Royal Winnipeg. And I, I think at 10, I didn't even know what it was. All I knew was that I was in
It needed to be harder and she's going Royal
Royal
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. And at that time, all of a sudden, I found myself like getting whisked off to go audition at the Go, and all of a sudden wearing like tights and a little white boy's bodysuit and ballet slippers and a dance belt and having like my teacher like get me ready in this like get up that I had never worn before. And I got in, and next thing I knew, I was on a plane being dropped off at the Royal Winnipeg at boarding school, and like that was it. And when I came home from the Royal Winnipeg, that's when I was like, oh, I guess this is what I do now. I guess dance is now what I do. And I laugh about it now because I give my parents a really hard time about it because I'm like, I was 10. I was a kid and you dropped me off like at a dorm and they were essentially like, good luck. But also my parents didn't have a dance background. So
Mhm.
they were just like of the mindset, I guess, that when people are telling you your kid is good and you get an offer from a school, like such a prestigious school, and your kid's 10 and you're like, I don't know if the kid's good. The kid just you take that advice that people are giving you and you run with it. And so I think that kind of was when I came back from the Royal Winnipeg and went back to my competitive studio, I think that's when it like clicked that,
Mm,
oh, this might be something I'm good at and that I can start building
right.
and move forward.
Did you so whenever I look at like moving away from home or whatever it is for somebody that's young like that, was your parents' message being like just try it and if you hate it you can come back, or was it like if you agree to this you're in it? Like what was the
I think there's always been a bit of both. I
yeah.
think my parents have always really instilled, like, once you commit to something, you follow through.
Mm,
And if you don't like it, quitting isn't really the answer. Like, you
mm,
better have
mm,
resourced every solution possible before you say you're going to quit.
hmm. I like that reframement almost of it. Like there it's not either or. It's like there's so many options for you to switch up and tweak it and make it work for you.
Yeah,
Can you try and find a way?
away. And so, to be completely honest, I absolutely hated it.
Mm,
The Roman peg. I spent
yeah.
the first night my mom dropped me off, and I remember going into the counselor's office and telling them I was walking home And they were like, well, are you going to walk across 3 provinces? Like,
Yes, I
and
am.
I was like, yeah. I'm like, just tell me where the door is and I'll be going. And then I remember going to a payphone and making a collect call and calling my mom and sobbing on the phone, saying that I was
My
going to
heart.
start walking and that it was like, I think looking back, maybe I, I think, I don't know, if I had kids and they were 10 and I was dropping them off somewhere, like at boarding school,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do it now. I'm sure at that time it was completely normal.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember like I leaving like my house in White Rock where I had my own bedroom and like to a
Yeah.
dorm room with 2 roommates and like going into the locker rooms to shower and eating in a cafeteria and having to do my own laundry and meeting
At 10.
and meeting like a whole new class of people that were instantly going to be your friends and your dance friends.
Yes.
It was just like a whole new world. And I think at 10, that's a tough thing to go through.
Yeah.
Um, but it also really set me up, I think, to not be afraid to
Character building.
100% but not be afraid to get on a plane and go somewhere new and try something new and live in a new place and try new food and meet new people and feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, feel uncomfortable. Exactly. Because I think that like it's not a matter of like doing these things so that eventually you feel comfortable. It's like doing these things so that you're used to feeling uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm still not good at feeling uncomfortable. So
Exactly. Okay, so then just to transition from that, so you said that you came back to your regular studio still in White Rock.
yeah.
And at that point, how old were you? And where was your mindset? Like, were you just like hell bent on now making this a professional career?
I mean, it's
Yeah,
so long ago.
I know, I know, I know, I know. Yeah,
I think when I came back, it was um, sort of like I was getting ready to go into high school, and I that transition was hard going from like coming back finishing elementary school. I like I got picked on a lot as a kid. Like there weren't a lot of other male dancers around. There was one other guy at our studio at that time, and I think dance became my safe space and
mm,
my escape. And then when I transitioned into high school, I ended up doing half day program so that I could get out of school and get out of being bullied and get out of spending like even like my time walking from like classroom to classroom was the most efficient use of time you probably would have ever seen anyone in
right.
high school. It was
You're like, what's my heart rate at right
yeah, it was
now?
like
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
get from A to B in under 3 seconds because I'm gonna avoid being bullied, having my books thrown around, getting put in lockers, getting shoved in lockers, like you name it.
Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so was there any, like, if you can remember, was there any source of like a figure at that time that you felt, oh, I can see them as being somebody relatable or somebody I can see have done similar things? Because that's where at least I'm only talking for myself, when I'm going through hardships or anything like that, if I can just find one beacon, like somebody in my life or something that's been in a similar situation, I can just pull like a little, if they've done it, I can do this too.
Yeah.
Like, was there anybody?
I I really lucked out because the group at my studio, like sort of the competitive training program that I was in at my home studio, um, most of the people that I danced with were older, and we all went to high school together. So I honestly like clung on to my dance friends for dear life. And at that point, um, our the program coordinator at our school was also like the coach for all like the soccer team or the volleyball team and the basketball team. And so any pep rally, they were always like, dancers, you dance. And
And here, and do more here and there.
and through that being forced to perform at pep rallies, for me, it bought me some safe space within the school because people saw what I did, and just
Validate
it
the
wasn't just a guy wearing pink tights and a tutu doing ballet, like twirling around. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
That
There
stigma kind of left. And I was so grateful that I had those friends in older grades that just had my back. And I think through that, it kind of gave me the confidence to kind of just power through.
yeah. Did in that moment then were you competing like what was it like competition wise? Were you competing with groups with solos like all of that stuff?
Everything.
Everything.
There was like, I think, in my later competitive years, it was like you did every single jazz group, small group, large group, lyrical group, contemporary group, ballet group, solos, duos, trios. Like, if there was a category that I didn't have a solo in, there was something wrong. And
My
but
gosh,
I,
your parents must have just like what like how do you afford it? I don't like it's so much money and I can't imagine what it's like in BC as well because it's
yeah,
probably more expensive there as well.
yeah,
I'm just assuming now, but and I think because there's so solos, there's the duos, there's the trios, there's a large group, there's a small group, there's the whatever. It adds up.
yeah.
Like
My
it
parents still to this day say that they've paid for university 2 to 3 times already. And I was like still mid high school at that point. Like,
exactly
yeah. So yeah, I found that I think secretly what I was doing was the more time I could spend rehearsing in a studio or competing on a stage or traveling to compete was less time I had to be in high school.
exposed to the awful toxic world that high school was.
And throughout high school, I would say, a pretty shy kid. I have a younger
Mm,
brother who is the life of the party. He's a jokester. He is the funny guy. He makes friends with everyone. We are total opposites. And I think for me, being able to perform and compete and find an artistic outlet
expression.
kind of gave me a voice without having to speak.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that just really helped kind of get me
Mm.
through.
Um, so now to because you're in BC, are you also in parallel to your competition world making quote unquote industry connections like whether that be what it was used at the time or not? Because at least for me, I honest to goodness, I didn't at all have exposure to industry connections like I found BC or Toronto like dancers
Yeah.
did.
So I was fortunate enough to um, really be exposed to going to LA to compete and train, going like there were quite a few conventions at that time, and it was just like exposure to different faculty members, different styles. Our studio really believed in like get like exposure to that, and I think through that, that's where I started to really find my footing and where I found people that I could look up to and other competitors that I would meet from other studios that were sort of going through the same things or feeling the same things, and you kind of created these little like brother and sisterhoods
Yeah. Yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah.
And then you wouldn't want to compete against them. You end up supporting them and becoming friends. And like some of those people that I started out competing against, or then like meeting up at conventions, or traveling to LA or New York with, ended up becoming lifelong friends, and we're still friends to
Mm,
this day. Or like they're also now fellow choreographers, or
yeah.
so
And that is like the power I think that dance holds being in that community that is so much like not an element of awareness when you first enter into these dance programs and stuff. But if you do pursue it time over time, you build like I was saying before like this family, these connections, this like it becomes much more than soccer on the weekends. And I don't mean to say that soccer as a case study there isn't doesn't have the community connections like dance does, but because there's a world where dance has so many professional opportunities, there's so many different avenues that you can take. I think you really start to build like yourself a professional figure in the industry, and you want to be in an environment where people are supporting you. And it's just this like, I always found dance to be very unique in the way that you can build these lifelong relationships, as you're saying. And whether you started building those when you were 10 years old, and then you didn't, maybe you took like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then somehow you're like 30 or whatever, and you're like back in touch with the people that you were like,
Yeah,
competing against in Division 1 jazz. Like, you know what I mean? Anyways,
yeah,
I love to hear those moments that you kind of look back on and rack your head over like when you started making those connections and how much those relationships still play a part in your
yeah.
life today.
Oh, totally. I think like one of the biggest ones that I can look back on is um, with Kelly Kono, Dory Kono, and Carolina Lancaster from Triple Threat. They would come and teach at our studios or at our studio and, choreograph jazz pieces for us. And then when Triple Threat started, the first year of Triple Threat, I ended up winning in the senior ballroom. And the next year I ended up starting traveling with them as an assistant. And that became like my full-time job was working with these three amazing women. And you know I, it we worked the entire season from like folding merchandise to doing the registration packs to like triple and quadruple counting wristbands for each studio pack, and like packing all that merchandise and packing the flooring and then traveling to the cities and doing the set.
And it's like 5 a.m. to like midnight, 1 a.m. Like sleep is a side thought that you can do after the whole job's over.
Yeah. But doing that, I mean, and then assisting all the classes all weekend. Like, but
Just thinking about this because I was looking back on footage and and because similar to you, like traveling with Triple Threat assisting, and I'm looking at myself going, how did you do that? Like, how did you physically assist for that long? And then because it was so fun. Like when you think about it, we were both laughing because it's like
and I, Lena, Dory, and Kelly for the longest time were my idols. And then to get the opportunity to work under them and assist them and them be my mentors was something that I held so dear and I was so protective of. And it was something that I was doing everything in my power to do exactly how they wanted it done. Or,
going the extra mile. Yeah, like
but also, like, I never wanted to do anything that they wouldn't be proud of, So,
power of an idol. I like honestly, right? Because it changes your whole world becomes how can I show this person that I look up to, I respect them. They've done some amazing work and hence why I respect and look up to them so much. Your everything just becomes like how can I show them and in turn show myself like what I'm capable of.
yeah,
And I think that to go back to one of the points that I had made earlier with you going to boarding school, it's like character building, development, like the craziness that we don't even realize we're doing in the moment and what it's doing for you as a human being like then in the present but also in the future because I can so like vouch for how much character building and just like work ethic and respect that you build when you start to like tour with conventions or just like take on a role where you're wearing multiple hats and you have somebody in the organization the company whatever it is that you look up to and you're like I'm going to do anything and everything in my power to make sure I do a stand up job to show this person that I'm capable. I think that that is I don't want to say it's lacking because I am so I can we only know what we know and we don't know what we don't. And so I can only see what I see and there must be many people out there that have that work ethic, but if I could say anything it's like I don't know if I've seen like that matched level of work ethic that was there like 10, 15 years ago around this like world of like touring conventions if for a prime example it's like
No, you wake up at 5 a.m. Yes, sorry, I didn't stutter. Like wake up at 5 a.m. and then go set up the event, and then also make sure that like if there was coffees that needs to be go grab those coffees, come back, check the wristbands, do the merch, then get your ASS on stage and assist. Do the warm up. There's nobody teaching warm up right now. We need you on stage. Turn the music on louder in the back. We can't hear it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah, it's and know all the choreo.
I'm nowhere the choreo. I don't know why you just missed that step. Like
And if you don't know it, learn it.
catching myself. Oh my god, I'm laughing so hard right now because you would be caught in the hallway, like trying to learn the combo for the next day so that you could just kind of like get ahead.
I think if anything, it's like it gave me really great skills. Like, don't get flustered. Like, I mean, I say it now, but I think probably flustered 24 hours a day. But like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
like picking up choreography quick and then turning it around and being able to do it in the reverse or on the, like you got to bend down, flip it, and reverse it. Like,
This is too much. What a beautiful, beautiful time spent on a topic that I have yet to spend time on, but it's like brought me back. So
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, no problem.
Um, Okay, and then sort of taking segue into kind of out of because that is such a beautiful opportunity for a dancer to have when they're kind of out of high school or in high school or whatever it is, get the chance to work with touring conventions or competitions, getting that like little bit more professional experience under your belt and then starting to like get the momentum into the professional world. What did that look like for you transitioning into kind of your first few credits, if you will?
Yeah, so I in my later high school years, I had a friend that was at my studio that got into just doing background, and they kind of talked me into doing it as well. So we did it for like a summer, and it was interesting. I got to see film sets, and I mean, it probably wasn't the most exciting job for me at the time, but it was insight into the industry. And then um, I was cast as Jason Biggs' dance and stunt double in Saving Silverman. Was my, I believe, my first film credit.
Stunt artist.
I mean, at that time, I don't, I can't remember. I don't think I did anything crazy, but like I was rigged and getting thrown around, and like I just thought it was cool and it was fun,
Yeah.
and being wigged and costumed to look like Jason Biggs. I mean, the picture is still floating around somewhere, and it's hilarious. Um, and then through that, like slowly, it was I lucky at the time, and I think it's so funny to say this, but it's been brought to my attention more and more recently. My first big film and TV dance job was the Lizzie McGuire movie.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Hey now, hey now.
Start on that credit and finish on that credit. That is like pinnacle career moment.
I and at the time, Kelly was the choreographer, and we were a group of dancers that ended up being on set for months.
Wow.
Like the rehearsal process into the shooting process, and it was a big movie musical before they were, I think, really a bit more mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah. So to have that experience, getting on one of the very few at the time, like, whew,
So eye-opening, and we were treated so well, and just like always like brought back to Video Village to like watch playback, and
wow.
just the experiences at the time. I think the crew was amazing, but like I think we were super entertaining, if I do say so.
I think I was really good, but besides that,
But yeah, at the time, I think too, because at the time Hilary Duff was so young that we were all just a bunch of young kids.
eager, willing to do the work, like open and not judge or not like sort of blinded by, or I guess not poisoned, but already exposed to too much so that you
We were,
know too much. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. So yeah, that like those couple of jobs in there really. catapulted a dance career in film and TV that I wasn't expecting it to.
Would you say that, because I'm looking back at Royal Winnipeg, and clearly there was such a technical base foundation built there underneath you. How much would you say that that technical foundation had a role in why you were able to achieve the things you were able to achieve?
I I think if we kind of take a little step back into the timeline, when I was leaving high school, all I wanted to do was ballet at that. And
Mm.
I was auditioning for ballet companies.
Okay.
I had a few offers come in, and I had also auditioned for Tokyo Disney. And I, somewhere in the conversation, someone said, like, this is the point where you have to decide.
Make the call.
Make the call. Are you going commercial or are you going concert? Because they're two very different worlds. And my heart had always been being on stage. I was lucky enough to have a ballet teacher named Caroline Reed who um, li- changed my perspective and changed my world on the world of ballet and made me fall in love with it. And coming out of high school and going into the world, I thought I was going to be a ballet dancer. And when I got the contract for Tokyo, I was looking at how much money I could make in 7 months. And I was like, to be 18, I don't even think I was 18 yet when I took the contract. And to be able to make that amount of money in a short amount of time and kind of get set up to then get your career moving,
Totally.
it was a choice that I don't know if it's greed or it was just
Logic as well, I
yeah,
think.
like
Right? Like, oh, I could feed myself, I could put a, and I'm being dramatic, but like, but also Tokyo, and also
I
the opportunity to be like a booked professional
well,
dancer.
and as I was finishing school, I wanted to get as far away from White Rock as possible. I wanted to travel. I wanted to be in a different country. I wanted to live on my own. I wanted to be an independent adult, like we all do.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, that I kind of took that route and made the decision to sort of move away from the concert world, I guess.
Yeah.
But later on, I kind of got sucked back into it a little bit. But
And I was honestly, I was just going to ask you, like, I think sometimes we put up these daunting decision moments in our life, which I'm not going to discredit them. They do hold value and importance in those moments. But I think this is a prime example to say that, yes, in that time you felt it's concert, commercial, you cannot ever touch both worlds ever. Like, make the call and it's life or death, and you got to decide. And I think that, yes, to a certain extent, like, yes, you had to make the decision to move to Tokyo to commit yourself for 7 months, whatever it was. But who is to tell you that you can't come back to concert, because the foundation of ballet is built within
yeah,
you now.
yeah.
You have the skills, you have the tools, you have the know with all, like, and so I don't want to cut you off because I'm excited to hear, like, why and how did you get back into concert? Was there worlds, you know what I
So
mean?
I
Like,
think sorry to jump back and finish your or your previous question. I think when I was making that decision, and then coming back from Tokyo, I realized being exposed, going to Harbor, being in the mix in Vancouver of the commercial working dancers and going and trying to expose myself to all different classes. I'm like, I was a tall, skinny white boy. Like
mm,
I with a with primarily ballet training.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So I wasn't going to be the funkiest, moving, groovy
Down and dirty.
in music videos. As much as I wanted that, that was very much not going to be. So what I really did was I knew I had a really strong technical foundation, and that was something for me that I found really important that I was never going to let go of.
Mm,
And so whatever it was, if it was contracts that I was away for, I would always push myself to try and like get up and do an early morning bar or on breaks in between shows if it was a 5-show day. there was a few of us that would get together and do bar together or do center together, and just I think to keep our bodies moving and keep our minds moving. And because like when you're on a contract doing a 5 show day 5 days a week or 7 show day or whatever it is,
Yeah.
um, you have to find ways
Break it up.
to break it up and keep your brain moving
Sanity.
and find some excitement and sanity.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were able to finish the 7 months.
Yep.
And did you finish that contract going ready for another one, or were you like, okay, ready to explore different worlds?
I came home from Tokyo, um, and I believe very quickly after I came home from Tokyo, that's when Lizzie McGuire happened.
Okay, amazing. And so then would you say that at this point you started to build like goals or career, like there were things lingering in your mind that you're like, I'd like to achieve that one day? Or was it so fly by the seat of your pants, like,
Yeah, I was open to trying anything, So I did a cruise ship contract. I was still very close with Kelly Kono and Dory Kono and Carolina Lancaster. And so I packed up my car and drove to LA
fantastic?
and slept on friends' floors and friends' couches and was grinding at studios, hoping to be seen. And this part is hard because it was still very much at the time where visas and all that were not a thing, or
Right.
working under the table was a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but I kind of was in the mix in LA for not long. Like I wanted to be exposed and just get into class and like reconnect with some of the connections that I had made while I was still training. And if there was an audition, I would go, and ended up driving down to Vegas to audition for the Celine
Mm,
show.
yeah.
And was really sort of trying to live this hustling, grinding dancer life in LA in your 20s. And then I I had gone to quite a few like pretty big cattle calls, and I was just like, I like seeing who is around, and I'm like, that this is not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
And were you okay with knowing that? Like, because I think now you could say you're like proud of being able to recognize that that's not you. But at the time, when you have those moments, were you defeated by the fact that it wasn't you?
not defeated, no, because I think everyone that I was around was so supportive, and we were all kind of
Uh,
doing the same thing. Like everyone was in their grind era, their
yeah.
hustle era, their
Yeah.
um and the world of music videos and tours was so exciting and so big that I think it was any and all dancers in LA's dream to do that. But there was I don't quite remember like what the certain point was where I decided I was like, this isn't for me. But I just remember waking up one morning. It was like 5 or 6 a.m. and I was like, I'm driving home today. And I packed up my car and I did the drive in one straight shot. And that was it. That was my LA. Like, I mean, it had been a few months at that point, or
Yeah.
like it had been
Yeah.
quite a while. But
Enough for you to literally wake up and just go, I'm good.
yeah.
I'm good.
And then when I came back to Vancouver, I was like, oh, like there is a cool like vibe here, and there were still exciting projects here to work on. And I honestly like if there was a dance performance, industrial music video, awards show, I was at that audition.
Yeah. Cause you have the hustle built in you and you don't give a crap about like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? Should I? There's an audition. Is it worth my time? Is it not worth my time? You just go. Just
Yeah,
make it, just go.
yeah,
Just go.
yeah.
And that is such a relatable moment. I think for me too. I remember specifically I was in downtown Vancouver living there then because I'm from Alberta and I was like craving more home. So like I was just like I was there for a while and I just went I'm actually starting to miss home a little bit. So I was like, okay, I'll just go out to suburbs of Vancouver because maybe it's just that I need like more home environment, but I don't need to be physically at home. So I got a place in Coquitlam, brought my truck in from Alberta, probably spent 6 months in that flat in Coquitlam. And kid you not, same thing. Woke up Saturday morning, called my family. I said, I am coming home today. They're like, but boy, your lease at life. No, just I'll see you in 12 hours. Yeah. So all of that to say is like it happens, this stuff happens, and I think that you are always stronger on the other side of it. You also just like become so much more self-aware of what you like, what you don't like, you know what I mean, when you expose yourself to these crazy things. Morgan, I would love to transition into a little bit more of, because you mentioned some of the production work, some of the like more bigger projects that you became a part of, and the leader that you started to find as well. So yeah.
So yeah, I think back in like 2009, right before the Olympics were here, there was a call out to help run the auditions for the performers. And I guess through my time as like a dancer in film, um, essentially, it got to the point where if there was a dance audition happening for film and TV, I was helping those auditions, help run those auditions, and I think on a lot of the projects that Kelly ended up doing, I was always brought on to help facilitate those auditions. And after those auditions, we would always sit down and be like, okay, let's look at our process and let's see how we can streamline. See how we can make things more time efficient. Let's see how we can um, approach these auditions and give the performers enough time that they feel like they were seen and that they got something out of this audition, but also so that we are maximizing our use of their time. And so through that, um, I ended up getting a job helping with all the auditions for all the performers for the Olympic ceremonies.
Which was, for people that might not know, like what was the total performer count for that ish?
So it's in the thousands. Because it was opening and closing ceremonies. So thousands and thousands of performers. Um, and then during those uh, auditions, there was an audition for professional dancers, and I randomly decided to go to that too because why not just throw your hand or your hat in the ring or in the mix for everything. And I was like, okay, well, cool, I helped at the auditions, now I want to be a performer on that stage, in that stadium, in that ceremony. And I booked a role with Ballet BC and Alberta Ballet to perform with
Wow.
Sarah McLachlan. um,
Wow.
and when I was offered that,
Wait, really? Like
yeah,
I'm actually so jealous. Sarah
yeah,
McLachlan.
yeah. And it's funny because when I got the offer, I said to like my director that I was doing all the auditions with, I was like, but does this mean I'm not able to like apply to be on the team working on? And she's like, oh yeah, you can't do both. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, and because I had also been in talks with getting on the choreographic team for opening and closing ceremonies. And they kind of said, like, you can't do both. You have to choose. And at that point, I was like, great. I want to be on the choreography team. I want to be assistant choreographer for the opening and closing ceremonies of the
Yeah.
Vancouver Olympics.
And you know what? The craziest thing is there was no right or wrong answer there. It was whatever you genuinely felt was calling you the most,
Yeah.
and you made the call.
And that gave me the biggest fast tracked education into massive scale event production. And
I can't imagine.
it was like a 9 month a university course in communications, in planning, in strategy,
Interdepartmental coordination, like
everything from like movement creation to camera setups and working with the camera teams and choreographing all the cameras for the ceremonies. And it was the one of those experiences that like I you look back on, and if I started to make a list, like I would probably still be making a list in 10 years of all the things I learned how to do during that.
Like you just said, crash course on, like expedited degree on massive event production and facilitating, coordinating it all. I think that like that for events in general, for me, it's so easy to not realize the behind the scenes of how that stuff is possible.
It is mind blowing how many people, how many departments, how many artists, how many creatives, how many coordinators, how many producers, how
Yeah.
many seamstresses, how many, you know
Yes.
what I mean? Like it is a massive, well-oiled machine that
Yeah.
I'm like, still don't know half of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So that sounds like it was an eye-opening
it
sort of
was an
pivotal moment in
eye-opening.
your life.
It was eye-opening. It was exciting. I have never been as exhausted and willing to set my alarm extra early to get back in there the next day and do it all over again. And that being said, there were hard moments. There were tears. There were hard conversations. There were moments that were learning moments um, that were hard. And sometimes you also learn, like in these
That's
positions,
how you learn. Yeah.
sometimes you have to keep your mouth shut.
Pick your battles.
Pick your
Yeah.
battles. Like even even in the creative stages, like it was a safe space and there was always a space to throw out as many ideas as possible because you never know who's going to fly with what. But also sometimes it's the fine art of like knowing when you don't quite need to say something.
Mm, a fine art indeed.
Yeah.
I can very much back that and agree with that because it is something that I think more people, from speaking only for myself, I need to be better at, or at least just like understanding. I think one of the things that more people I would love more people to have is like being able to have the ability to take off your shoes and put somebody else's shoes on, and just like for a set, like not for a long time, but just like see the world from their eyes, because we can so often blind ourselves by what our preconceived thoughts are based on our past, present, and what we think of the future kind of thing. Um yeah, I play with that a lot because it's a personal challenge of mine. I am such a like confident, like I know the like, you assume you know the answers. It's my way or the highway kind of thing, and it's a learning experience for me to go, what if you didn't actually know, and that somebody else might have an answer for you. Anyways, I love to hear that when somebody has an experience like that and it just kind of like catapults them into even like a new area of the industry that you didn't foresee coming your way.
Yeah, and I think that that experience opened my eyes to not just being focused on dance and choreography. Dance
Mm,
was still I was still, but it was a stepping stone for me as an assistant choreographer. And yeah, it gave bigger insight into like the big picture of the show.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
I find a lot in film and TV and in the industry, we can get very tunnel visioned on our part of the project, and you kind of forget when you're in it.
Macro.
When you're in it, it is sometimes all you can see, and to be able to take a step back, great. Take 2 steps back, even better. Take 10 steps back. Go to like the third bull and, you know, and take a step back and see from there. And sometimes you're like, oh yeah, now I can go back in and work. Like,
It is. Oh, yeah. It is so important. It's so important to be able to do that. But you don't know unless, I think, somebody or something has allowed you to take those steps
yep,
back,
yep,
because Yeah. So
It was interesting too, like when we were installing uh, the ballet sections into the stadium. You're on a stadium floor. Like, of course, spacing looks off. Like, no matter where you stand, spacing's gonna look off. And so there was a rehearsal where I was tasked with going into the seating bowls, and I was on a microphone to look at, and I was running around the seating bowls on every level to look at spacing.
wow.
And that, I think, now that I've said, like, take a step back, I'm like, oh, that was the moment. Like, the
Yeah.
perfect
Physically.
physical realization of take a
Yeah.
step back.
Yeah. Bigger picture. Um, would you say that that was the pivotal moment, at least, that catapulted you into some of the current stuff you're working on?
I did a few more ceremonies after that, and I did quite a bit more film and TV after that. Um, I From helping out at auditions and running auditions and coordinating that kind of stuff, it slowly transitioned into the casting process
Right.
and then the booking process. And um, yeah, there were steps then that ended me up giving me positions on choreography teams, but
Mm,
as a coordinator for those teams.
yeah.
And, it was my responsibility from scheduling to contracting to communicating with agents to communicating with the performers to coordinating with the stunt department and the wardrobe department and the hair and makeup department and communicating with the producers, the scheduling. And like it became this like multi
Faceted sort
dimensional
of. Yeah.
position that I don't think anyone knew was kind of needed, but we found this niche for this position that was needed. And it after every audition, after every casting, after every project, we would then like sit back again and be like, okay, how can we streamline things?
Let's review.
How can we streamline our processes? How can we make it more efficient? How can we make our lines of communication more efficient? And that part I found so fascinating and I loved it.
Yeah.
Um, that this position sort of just became what it was. And also, I think it really helps, and I've only learned this really recently. I was uh, going back and forth with a producer, and they were having trouble communicating with the client. The client was saying this was their vision, this is what they wanted. They were saying this to the producer. The producer was relaying it to me. I was kind of going back with them, and we were trying to figure out the language speaking from the artistic side
Mm,
in terms that the client would then understand.
right.
And
Whoa.
yeah, and there was this moment where this producer said, everything you just said to me that justifies the wants and needs of the choreographer from the creative side. They're like, can you put that in an email and send it to me? That is going to be my script that I'm going to use with the client because you've literally just melted these two worlds together and created the vocabulary that both understand.
That both understand, because you're so right. It's not something that we often realize, but it is that interdepartmental communication or communication between clients and artists or whatever it is that whether or not you might be on the same page, you don't realize that you are on the same page or you understand the whole scope of it all just simply because of the lack of
Yeah.
communication and ability to meet each
Or
other.
differences in vocabulary. That's the other thing is like, I think creatives and like a creative in the art department doesn't use the same vocabulary as the choreography department, but often they're working towards the same goal.
Same thing. Yeah.
It's just the way you're communicating can be different. So it was a balance that then I found that I liked and I enjoyed, and I ended up working with some really great producers that were like, because I understand that dance departments are expensive. I know
Yeah.
they are. And I think a lot of producers still are like, here comes the dance department.
Right.
There goes our budget. And for
Right.
me, when I was in those like coordinator positions on those film projects, I never wanted to be the department that was like, that's the department that blew the budget. Because you also hear it
Mm.
within crews. They're like, oh, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
visual effects, there goes the budget.
You're so right.
What? Why is wardrobe taking so long? There goes the budget. So, and I was like, I knew the dancers are already expensive.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I
they deserve to be expensive for the years of training that they've put in.
yeah.
But in the big picture of film and TV, I was always like, the dance department will never be the department that is over budget.
The reason why the budget's blown.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so through
And we'll show, and also like being able to really showcase the abilities of the dance department as well to make it worth your while, I think is also something that is key. And more people are hopefully learning and experiencing.
and it became this like understanding with producers that like there was a trust built, that they knew that having this position, it sort of justified this position that was created as an extra level of insurance for them. It was an extra set of eyes,
Yeah.
an extra set that I's were crossed, that T's were dotted, or vice
Yeah.
versa.
You got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and yeah,
So then did it become something that you knew you were kind of like, okay, chapter kind of closed, new chapter opened sort of thing? Did you know that at the time?
yeah, it was kind of during a time where performing was not my focus. I was still choreographing a bit on smaller projects. Like, I feel like my perspective on what I did as a choreographer, I was fine with. Like, I didn't teach a lot. Like, I taught at some studios or I would do pop ups, but I always felt as though, like, my choreography was always very classically,
Yeah. Technically,
technically
yeah.
based. It was never going to be groundbreaking. I was not finding or creating the next it on TikTok dance move.
Can I just say something? Thank God. Like I say that because it's like, thank God.
Yeah.
Like, thank
And
God.
and I was okay with that.
Yes.
But on the flip side, I was brought onto these big projects as a coordinator and still had the ability to give creative input when it was needed or when it
Yeah.
was asked. And but also in that kind of lucked out, someone got sick. Who knows all the choreography? The guy that's freaking been there since
Yeah.
scrap and since creation. Or, on the Olympic ceremonies, we had a dancer from Alberta Ballet break his foot,
Oh,
and it was a week before the ceremonies. And we held auditions to try and find a replacement. And throughout those auditions, I was like, me, it's
I'm
me.
just gonna I'm
Like,
just gonna announce it again one more time for the people in the back.
and
I'm your guy.
yeah, so finally, and in the big picture of like the Winter Olympic ceremonies, I was given those ballet sections as I was overseeing them on our team, so I was in every rehearsal with them. And so finally, it was like right after the auditions, HR came to me and they were like, "Okay, look, we said you weren't going to be able to do both.
Actually,
You're doing both." And so I got to perform with Alberta Ballet and Ballet BC and perform with Sarah McLaughlin and in that stadium at that ceremony. I was like, yes, like I got what I wanted,
check, check,
you
check,
know?
check, 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 check.
And then same thing on the film and TV projects. It was like there was always like this unspoken, spoken, like, oh yeah, we'll throw you in. Like, oh yeah, we'll throw you in. And on Descendants 1, randomly got thrown in here and there, did a quick little stunt thing. Like there's always a behind the scenes that no one knows and no one
Totally.
sees. And there's a very small group
Totally.
of people that are trying to constantly come up with solutions. And on D1
Yeah.
it was put that horse suit on and get on camera. and I was
Saddle up.
I was the ass of a horse mascot. Um, and, it
Morgan Tanner on horse mascot. On how to achieve
how to be the back
high
end of a
credibility.
horse. But and then, Descendants 2, Descendants 3, Freaky Friday, like someone gets hurt, they need extra people, the director wants more performers coming through that door, but we don't have any more performers. Like
Yeah.
it became sort of this joke. And not a joke, but like I lucked out.
Not a matter of like if, it was like when. Like when is the production gonna need me now?
Yeah, yeah. So I got lucky with that I still got
Yeah.
these
You were filling your cup up.
yeah, these nice little nuggets of being a performer again. And then um I really kind of leading up to COVID, I had a conversation, a very candid conversation with my agents. Um and I can picture where we were sitting, I can picture what I was wearing, and I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I and it wasn't coming from a place of something better was on the horizon or a
Yeah.
offer. I knew I was at a time where I was like, I can look at my resume and I can bow out being proud of what I've accomplished.
Yeah.
And not to say that I'm not still fascinated by the industry or
Hmm.
constantly watching what's happening in the industry, but for me as a performer, me as a choreographer, I was happy to move on. And it was a really interesting conversation. And, you know, Melissa and Shannon were so great because the other great part about my representation was that I've been friends with Melissa and Shannon for
Right.
decades. Like Shannon and I competed against each other as
Yeah.
kids, and
Yeah.
I worked with Melissa on like one of my first jobs, like one of
Yeah.
my first kind of like music video jobs, and they had this. I think as performers, they had both gone through that as well, and knowing when they were okay to step away. And I think they could just see it in my face and in the tone that I was okay with moving on.
And nobody can make that decision.
No.
Nobody else can make that
And
decision for
it's
you.
funny because we agreed, I stepped away, I took a breath, I got through the crazy years of COVID. And after that, I got direct booked for a role on Yellow Jackets. And it was that experience that really solidified for me that I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm and it's so funny because dancers, we know how to do a quick change. And my wardrobe for this episode, it took me about 25 minutes to get in. And so they would like get me into half wardrobe, usually
Pre.
about half an hour before the wardrobe
Yeah.
call. But in this wardrobe, I couldn't sit down.
Oh my god.
So I was like, I had it dialed in exactly how long it took me to get into that wardrobe. So then when
You're like, and
they were like,
go.
we're gonna get you into we're gonna start getting you pre-wardrobe, like blah blah blah, whatever. And I'm like, oh, we got time. We got time. I'm like, and they would say, like, no,
Trust me, I'm
you
a
have like 10
professional
minutes.
at
And I'm
this.
like, I need 3. And they're like,
Yeah.
you can't do it in 3. I'm like, you want to time me?
Yeah.
Like, and it was I knew the AD, so they were like, okay, we'll stand outside your trailer. We're like, timer, go. And like trailer door opens and I'm like, told you, under 3 minutes. Like, and then like just those I needed those moments on that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
production to
Yeah.
make light. But
Lighten it up.
and it was funny because we wrapped that show. A month later, we had to go and back and do reshoots. And
Wow.
after the reshoots, I was like, I don't ever want to step foot on set again.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Thank you so much. I'm good.
For this, it really solidified for me I was happy to hang up those dancing shoes.
Yeah. Yes. And what a feeling, right? So hard to conceptualize and to put into words. It is so hard. And nobody says it's going to happen at this time. Nobody says it happened to me at this time, so it's going to happen to you at that time. It is so much a personal journey. And I think if and when that does happen, it is one that is uncomfortable and one that you are like, I'm feeling this way. I don't even know what that is. What is that? And it's like it takes a little while for you to realize it. And it does take meetings with your closest friends and people that might be in the industry and people that aren't in the industry and all of this stuff to come to the realization. But to be able to go look back and be proud of the work that you did and realize everything you learned and the connections you made, like what a feeling.
Yeah, the when I look at my resume, I guess, or my body of work and like the projects that I worked on, there's it's not just the big titles to me
Yeah.
that I'm proud of. It's also the really strange projects,
Yeah.
and like the strange ceremonies in the Middle East, and the the friendships that I made on those contracts that are now people I consider family.
Yes.
And um, yeah, it is taking a step back and looking at that career as a whole and
Mm,
being proud of it,
mm,
and yeah, being
yeah.
okay with where that chapter has ended.
I'm so freaking proud of you. Like I listened to your story, your background, all of the things that you accomplished and hardships that you also overcame, ones that you probably didn't even mention as well. You know what I mean? It takes a lot out of a human being to go through all the things that you go through in this industry, in this world, and to come out the other side of it with eyes wide open, open to more opportunities, even just with like growth in other areas. It's such an inspiration. I'm just going to speak for myself, for me, like, and I know it's going to be so transformative for people listening to this
Yeah,
episode to hear your story.
I think too the important thing too is like I'm happy that you find it inspiring. There are, as you mentioned, there were dark times as well. Like nobody's career, I don't think anyone can say that their career has always or ever been on just a trajectory that was consistently positive.
Up and up and up and up and up.
And and I think that the base of my career was really in a time where there wasn't social media.
Mm,
And then as social media became more prevalent, um, you post your wins.
the highlight reels.
It's the highlight reels. Those are those are albums that are successes and wins, and you know uh, every artist, every performer goes through trials and tribulations and self-doubt and thinking that they have booked the job, or this is the audition, I am ready to murder this audition, this booking is mine, and then the outcome being completely different and it takes you down, and all of those are very real. Like the emotions are real and the feelings are real and the doubt is real, and the it's all.
And and it feels so alone, it
Yeah,
feels so isolating. But everyone can say, at least in my circle of people that I've been around in the industry, it's like everyone has something that could be in the same world as your story of defeat, or thinking you booked the role and you got cut first round, or whatever it is. Like, so many people are in the same boat. You feel
yeah.
so alone, but that's not true at all.
No, I think I look back at like auditioning for the Celine show in Vegas, and like I knew the choreography team. I knew, like, I went into that being like, I'm moving to Vegas. Like, I am a
Yeah.
technical male dancer who can
Yeah.
murder this combo. Like, I made it to the very, very end. Like, I was like, this contract is mine. And then they're like, you're too short. And I was
Yes.
like, I will dance on releve for this entire show.
Give me a
I am
stiletto, I don't care.
put a
Yeah,
lift
yeah,
in
yeah.
my shoe, I will make it work. But so it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is these crazy stories that I actually would never give up for anything. Like you being able to say that story, do you know, like not a lot of people get to say that, share that, like and live that. So, I feel like just transitioning to some of the more like lighthearted human topics. I ask usually like last 5 minutes to my guests, random questions. If you're ready, I'm ready.
hit me.
Okay. If you could schedule a dinner with anyone, past or present, doesn't have to be in the industry, who would it be?
I would love, I would love to sit at a table with both my sets of.
Both sets of grandparents. Do you have anything that is this is like another random question
Yeah,
irking you at the minute that you're seeing that is so random, kind of like off the like why it's coming up you don't know, but is there anything like that's been either a pet peeve that somebody's doing or something that's going around media right now, whatever it is?
so it's a very common conversation that it's a topic I feel like I bring up a fair bit, and that is since transitioning onto the agent side, the um, the amount of what's the right word to use here?
Yeah.
The weight that artists put on their career, but the weight that they believe is being held and carried by their representative
Mm.
often doesn't match the weight of the effort that they're putting in to their.
So the scale's not
The
balanced.
scale is not balanced. And I think that I knew that for me in my career was in my hands. And if something needed to be changed, yes, I had a team that would help facilitate those changes or give me insight into training or connections or whatever. But as a performer, as an artist, as a choreographer, it was me that was responsible for my career and setting deadlines and meeting those deadlines, um, making a commitment and following through with those
Yeah.
commitments, and um, often I find now I'm a bit cringed when
Yeah.
people are like,
Expecting something when they didn't put in the work.
how come I'm not getting more auditions? How come I'm not like, you know, um, where it's like, well, what are you working on? What are you also doing to help? Not saying auditions, but like, are your materials up to date? Are
Yes.
you talked about doing a special ability reel or a stunt reel or a mixed martial arts reel, and that was in a meeting that was 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Hi.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
on that next week.
Okay.
Or yeah, it's that is an ick for me. Like
Yeah.
when you realize that the the person you're communicating with has put a lot more expectation on the effort and the amount of effort that's being put into building something isn't matched. For me, I'm like,
Doesn't rub you the right way.
I want to work with the person that is grinding
Like,
hard.
and makes you want to meet them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it's like, oh my God, okay, yeah, yeah, I'm committed.
yeah,
they're working their arse off. I'm there. I'm
yeah,
working my arse off.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I hear ya. Next, if there is any superpower that you could have, what would it be?
Maybe time travel.
Ooh, really? Okay,
I want to
okay.
go have dinner at Downton Abbey. Damn it!
Fine. Fine, you win. If there was last meal, I used to say death row, but sometimes I'm like, death row is harsh. Just last meal on earth.
Oh, this is such a hard one for me. I'm such a foodie. You know, I can think of a million things. Think ideally it would be like catching something straight from the ocean and cooking it
Mm,
or eating it right out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I
Like
can see
something
that.
quick. Like I can't give you a very specific. It wouldn't be a
Fine. 5-course meal with just details on the side dishes
Yeah.
and all that. But yeah. Do you have a favorite pastime? Like something so random that is just not even kind of on what somebody would expect you to do.
Um, wow. I love being out on the boat.
Yeah,
That,
okay.
that is my escape. That is my being out on open water is it
The one.
clears my mind. But also I think cooking is
Yeah.
another one. I love to be in the kitchen. I love cooking a crazy meal for friends. I love being in a big kitchen with a mess, or maybe not so much of a mess.
Yeah. A
Organized chaos.
controlled mess. An
Organized chaos.
aesthetically pleasing mess.
Yes, an aesthetically pleasing mess where I know where everything is. But having friends around and being interactive, and that
Yeah.
is also.
That whole dynamic. I love it as well. Oh my gosh. Okay, and then my last one for you is just if you could gift the world with one personality trait, what would you choose if they could have to have what you were sort of casting a spell on them with?
Good one. I would maybe say being a little more open and understanding with others.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Morgan, is there anything that you want to share with the listeners sort of before we wrap things up? Was there anything that I didn't chat about that you want to mention?
I don't think
No,
so. I feel like I just really gave them. I really
everything.
unloaded
You
on
gave me
you.
everything.
I really unloaded
Um,
on you.
there is ways that people can find you, or no? Are you fairly like not on social media? You're
No, I'm on social media. My social media is hilarious because it's been the same since I even found out what Instagram was, and it'll probably never change. So that's, yeah,
good.
Motan82. Um, yeah, yeah, I'm
Fantastic.
pretty.
I'll add your Instagram to the show notes or episode notes. I want to, honest to gosh, thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. It's going to resonate with so many listeners, and offer so much just motivation. And that's the whole goal behind this, is to just like open up eyes to more pockets of this industry, to this world, and share experience. Because like you said, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. You've got to find ways to motivate, get yourself out there, and make the opportunities happen. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's been a pleasure. It's been a fun conversation.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, nothing but love to you. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. That's a wrap on another episode of Briggs and Co., where we are leaving average for Joe. I hope you all enjoyed that episode. Hopefully, you pulled some inspiration, motivation, maybe a couple hacks, tools, and tricks along the way. If you liked the episode, please give it a share with friends and family, just out into the universe. I would really appreciate it because that's the only way this show will grow. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations on guests that I should bring on, please message me at Briggs underscore and underscore co underscore, or send me an email, admin at briggsandco.ca. So much love to you all. Take care of yourselves. Ciao for now.